Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Asia PropTech Beyond 2022 conference. And right now I have here with me Tommy Crowley, Global Director of Asia Pacific with WiredScore, here for the Leaders in PropTech session. Welcome, Tommy.
Thanks, Paul. Good to be with you.
Great. So I met you a few years ago, and I wanted to get you on this session because I was really interested. When I first met you, yeah, you were talking to different people in the market, and you said, "Hey, I'm here to start up WiredScore in Asia Pacific." So I'm really curious how you've done, and I think a lot of our audience will be really interested in your journey, from when you first started to where you are now. So in the beginning, why don't you just give a little introduction of yourself? Tell us who you are, your background.
Sure, no problem. So as Paul mentioned, my name's Tommy Crowley. I lead the WiredScore team in Asia Pacific, previously based in Hong Kong and now based in Singapore. And prior to WiredScore, I actually spent close to a decade working for all my sins in management consulting. So I came at it with a very strategic sort of background. It was actually, Paul, it was only a year ago that we met. So the WiredScore journey has been fast-paced and exciting, and we're very ambitious that we move at speed, but it really only has been a year, kind of launching across new markets, and I'm very happy to sort of dig into that a bit more today.
So maybe tell us, what is WiredScore and the value proposition to owners and tenants?
Yeah, so our mission as a business at WiredScore is to make the world's buildings, smarter and better connected. And that's all about making buildings better for users. So how we do that is that we set the global standards for technology in buildings. So you can think of us like a well for health and well-being, or a lead or beam for sustainability, but we do that for technology. So we have two certifications. One that's called WiredScore. It's all about digital connectivity. How do you guarantee to your tenants that they're not going to experience an outage? They've got a resilient, reliable, fast connection. The other one is SmartScore, which is our smart building certification. So that takes a more holistic look at smart building technology to drive towards a inspirational, sustainable, cost-efficient and future-proof building. And so globally now we've got 800 million square feet certified, and we're sort of really fast growing. But up until really recently, we weren't in Asia, and we're really pleased and excited to be bringing these sort of global standards to Asia. You touched a little bit on the value propositions. There's sort of four main value propositions from the landlord side. So leasing and branding. How do you brand yourself as technologically forward, and that you've done all these things and you deliver best-in-class connectivity? And that then filters through to the tenant proposition, which is, of course, as a tenant, it makes it easier for me to streamline due diligence, source office space, etc., because I can rely on this global standard. So first piece on the landlord side crosses over onto tenant, which is leasing and branding. Second piece is future-proofing. How can I ensure that my asset is set up for success for years to come? Technology is moving at a really fast pace. How do I ensure I've got the right things in place that enable me to keep pace with that? Thirdly, asset value. So if you get the first two things right, you should see an increased rental premium. And we have studies to support that, 5 to 7% in London and Europe. And then finally, it's all about reporting. How do I demonstrate to my investors in the broader market that I've done everything I can to future-proof these assets, and that I'm using technology to support my ESG strategy?
Oh, interesting. And the uptake has been pretty good?
Yeah, so we're actually only in Australia, Singapore, and soon to be Hong Kong at the moment in Asia Pacific. But we're seeing really good uptake, and we're really excited to you'll see some press over the next few weeks kind of featuring landlords and things, but the uptake's been really positive, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, this session is really focused on leadership. So I'd like to ask you some questions about leadership, but maybe tell us, like, how long have you been in Asia now?
So I've actually only been in Asia just over 3 years, getting on for 3.5. So still relatively new, but have lived across both Hong Kong and Singapore.
And in the time that you've been here, what have been your 3 biggest challenges?
Yeah, good question. I think if you put aside the challenge everyone first has when they get here of sort of understanding how Asia works and everything else, and take that to the side, I think, in my role, the 3 biggest challenges have been, firstly, adapting our products to the market, which is in part like the landlords out here are really, really focused on ROI dollar. If I can't see a direct dollar, so A, how do we adapt our pitch? But B, how do we also educate the market the importance of some of these investments today that's going to enable them and set them up for the future? It always makes me laugh that a landlord might not challenge a a $10 million marble lobby because they think it's kind of placemaking and making it look, the building look fancy. But when it comes to digital investment, there's a real challenge there. And so, you know, adapting our product and our pitch, I guess, to the market and what they want, but also that education piece. So that kind of product fit and Asia nuance, if you want, is probably the first one. And then I think the second two are all about people. So we are, I mentioned, you know, hiring and onboarding and scaling at speed. And that's really hard. And that isn't necessarily Asia Pacific. It's slightly tougher if you don't have a strong network here. But this is our biggest challenge to growing the business across the region, getting the right people in place. So that's the second one. And then I think the third one is if you're like me and you're leading the Asia division or APAC division of a team, a global team, how do you ensure that that team is really connected and part of the global whole so that we're leveraging the joint strength of the whole business and like feeding back insights from region and vice versa to make sure that the product continues to evolve and suitable for Asia as well.
I see. So, yeah, when I talk to other leaders as well, a very common theme is people and process. So I'm really interested, how have you overcome these challenges?
Yeah, a good question. I think the answer is they're not completely cracked yet, but we're still ongoing. But you know, if I went through the same three again, I think with the kind of product market fit and adapting to Asian nuance, we've been listening a lot. So in all of our first pitches and everyone I was meeting at the beginning, listen. Above all, if you're launching in Asia, listen. Try and work out what things do people keep bringing up with you, what resonates, and adapt your pitch, adapt your value proposition, adapt the product if you need to work in Asia. Don't believe that you can just bring and shift and dump. So that's the first thing. On people and hiring, I think, you know, this is getting easier as our brand awareness grows. So finding talent is becoming quicker and easier for us. But, you know, in the beginning, it was about partnering with local headhunters, local teams, asking around in networks to really expand all the people we knew and really understand who was good and who was trusted. So that was the kind of key piece on cracking the hiring. And then when it comes to onboarding, we really leverage the power of the global team as well as the local team to really, you know, get that person up to speed and make them feel supported. And then when it comes to sort of making the APAC team as part of the global business, the simple answer here is communication. So making sure we've got those touch points in the calendar with, you know, cross-functional groups from across the business to feedback and reflect on market insights, to raise challenges we're facing in market and see what we can learn. And then, you know, making sure we bring over but adapt the WiredScore culture. And we do that through not only having our global company retreat, and we have something called Core Values Week, where we really get together and embed the values in our company. And we're also trying to develop our own traditions in the APAC offices. So it's quite lots of different things going on, but above all, it's been about, you know, listening and then communicating and over communicating internally.
See, so how many regions are you in now, and how big is your team in Asia?
So the APAC team is actually still relatively lean. We are 7 people today as part of a global team of over 150. That will double within the next 12 months. And so today we've got most of those sitting in either Singapore or Australia. Singapore is our APAC hub. And so we're present in both of those markets and operating in both those markets. We also have an upcoming launch in Hong Kong in November, which we're really excited about, an upcoming launch in Thailand. And then we're going into mainland China next year. And then there are lots of other markets on the roadmap thereafter.
So just along the people line, you're growing very quickly, and you have people in you're going to have people in different regions.
Yeah.
Now, and you also mentioned about culture, but how do you motivate your team? I mean, people must be working really, really hard, like day and night. I hear that from a lot of the startups as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a real challenge, of course, always. I think the key is giving everyone in the team really big scope to meaningfully contribute to the exciting journey we're on, and then recognizing that publicly. So, you know, start with each individual, working back from our overall company objectives to setting ambitious goals for them, and then giving them room to achieve them so they feel they can go out, but they're set up for success. They can check in with you when you need it, whatever they need. Really publicly celebrate wins in the team and really keep that energy and that spirit up. And thirdly, you know, don't make it okay not to fail. We actually have a weekly session in our team checkout on a Friday where we share failures. And I'll quite often put up my hand and say, guys, I really messed up this week. Like I did this stupid thing with one of our clients. Like I'm telling you because I don't want you to do the same, but I'm also telling you because I want you to know that it's okay. As long as you learn from it and don't do it again, like come and share your mistakes as much as your wins. So that's how we really try and do it. And obviously, as with everything to do with people and humans, got to adapt that to every single individual in my team. Everyone's here for a different reason. Everyone cares about slightly different things, and trying to find them the fit within the team and the things that they're really finding rewarding and getting kind of leaning in and leaning into their strengths is also something that we kind of continually work on.
See, that's really interesting, the way that you're building the culture. It sounds like it's a really fun place to work. Now, has that culture and the way that you've managed a team, how has that resonated with your clients? Because a lot of the real estate companies may be very like old school, a little bit maybe kind of boring in some respects, but how has that resonated with your prospects and clients?
It's a great question. I think we're seen as, anything that touches sort of technology in the real estate space is seen as quite young and dynamic. And so I think we sort of fit that image and probably their expectations. They obviously don't see a lot of what goes on behind the scenes, although we are quite agile and fast paced. I think what they do see is leaders within my team enabled to be autonomous. So, if you want to talk technical, you talk to my director of operations. You don't talk to me. If you want to talk BD, you talk to Anne. You don't talk to me. And they're able to see that these people are really empowered, so that we are able to then scale from there. I think is probably how they experience it.
Great. So my last question for you is, what advice would you have for somebody in a similar position who's coming to Asia and they're starting their expansion within Asia? What advice do you have for them?
I think firstly, people. Your first hire is everything. Get them right. Really focus on making sure they're people you want to work with, as well as bringing the right skills, and they're people you believe will build out your culture. So that's the first one. The second one is really don't assume you know what you're doing. Like create regular touch points to listen to the team, to hear that market feedback. Don't assume you can lift and shift what you've done elsewhere in the world. And then finally, really find ways to stay connected to the global team. If your HQ is elsewhere, as it is for me, mine's in London and New York, make regular trips, put in regular touch points in the calendar on Zoom. Make sure you stay part of the whole and you're leveraging the quality of that sort of global expertise, if you like. I think they're my three big things.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Tommy, for this very insightful session.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Paul. Really good to see you.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. And again, thank you to Tommy Crowley, Global Director of Asia Pacific for WiredScore. And if you want to get in contact with her, look for the QR code right here. Okay, so thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.